All right, babe. Episode 62. What are we talking about?
Today we're going to dive into breathwork, the modality of breathwork, and what it is, what it looks like, why I love it so much, and really how breathwork can help you in your transformation or your healing process, personal development, and ultimately, at the end of the day, in your relationship.
You're listening to the Revive Couple Podcast. We're Michael and Laura, and together we'll explore everything relationships, personal responsibility, feminine and masculine dynamics, communication, and just some all-around real and raw conversations.
Drawing from our 18 years together, with a bit of sarcasm, humor, tears, a few and lots of love, we deep dive into the male and female perspectives on relationships and navigating the highs and lows of life together. Sit back, grab your love mug, and let's get into today's conversation.
All right, babe. So, what is breathwork?
Okay, so, I think I could go down a million different avenues and sharing exactly what breathwork is, but let's start off first by mentioning that my diaphragm just keeps getting smaller and smaller. So it's kind of ironic that we're talking about breathwork. And I'm going to probably be out of breath at times because you're asking me questions and I'm going to be talking a lot. And what am I, 7 months pregnant? I don't even know.
I don't know.
26 weeks
End
right
of
now.
June, right?
Yeah, we're having a baby in 3 weeks. It's not 3 weeks, 3 months. Hopefully, no, fingers crossed we're not having a baby in 3 weeks. But this baby's really putting some pressure on my ribs and my lungs area and stuff. So like I said, it's kind of ironic that we're talking about breath work and I'm over here not being able to breathe. I don't remember this with my first pregnancy. I don't think it was quite like this, but anyways, so there's many different ways I think that I could explain very technical and spiritual and woo and all of the things, but just to simplify everything, breathwork is essentially a healing modality, if you want to call it that, because we breathe all the time. We, you could go you could go days without food, days without water, right?
Yeah, a few days without water. Food, you can go for
yeah, is that how it is? Yeah. It's a few days without water, way longer without food, but you can only go a few minutes without breath, right? And then it's all done. So our breath is our life source. It's prana. It's the energy that fuels our body. And so I think it's kind of funny to call it a healing modality because it's you breathe all the time. But breath work and the type of breath work we're going to talk about in this episode is a practice where a facilitator actually guides you through a process of a structured breath session where we focus on a continuous breath. So it's going to interrupt a person's everyday breath pattern. And I'll get into that a little bit more in a second. But when you ask me what is breath work, it's essentially a healing modality that is guided by a facilitator that takes you into your body, into your breath. It's a conscious, connected breath that really kind of takes you on a journey through many things. Maybe I'll tell you some of the benefits of it. When I work with someone new, I always take some time to explain to them the 4 main categories of the benefits of breath work. So there's a physical aspect of breath work where you, a lot of people think that, when I say detox, what comes to your mind?
I always just think because of my my drinking days of detoxing from alcohol.
Right.
That's what I think of. Or
Yeah.
Those foot baths for some reason, or those detox foot things.
Oh yeah, right.
Those
Those pads that
right?
go on your feet, or the water.
Yeah,
things.
the water thing.
Yeah.
That's what I think of detox.
Yeah. And then otherwise, people do fasts, right, to detox or juice detox, so it's usually associated more so with nutrition. But interestingly enough, it's been noted that our body's ability to detox, 70% of our body's ability to detox is through our breath, right? Through the inhale, the exhale, and eliminating toxins through the exhale of our breath. So that's just an interesting physiological aspect to it, that instead of focusing so much on the food we eat, we could be focusing on this thing that we have like every moment of every day within us. So our breathing, or our detox mechanism. There's many physical aspects, but I want to also make note here. If you can't already tell, I have so much to say, and I'm not going to make it. I think I could go in circles and spiral all over the place and make this confusing. So I'll stick to these points, but I will note that by the time you're listening to this episode, I have created a free masterclass, and it's going to go into a lot more details on exactly what breathwork is, why you do it, what the benefits are, and I'll give more benefits in that. We just really wanted to take this opportunity in this podcast to share some of the awareness around it, because a lot of people are like, breathwork, what is that? So kind of an introductory. And then if you want to go deeper from here, check out our social media. I think it'll be probably go to the Revived Couple Instagram account, and I'll have the masterclass live there too, or on the Revived Couple website as well. We'll link it in the show notes too. So anyways, introductory breathwork. So that's the physical aspect. There is a mental aspect where we often get so stuck in our thoughts, right? And we just loop-de-doop around them and spiral into negative thinking. Most of us are thinking the same thoughts that we thought yesterday, and a large percentage of those are all negative thoughts. We're creating our life from our consciousness, but most of what we're creating from is all unconscious, not our conscious mind, right? And so that kind of leads into the emotional aspect of it. Well, like the mental and emotional, I think, go together in that we have suppressed and repressed, so consciously and subconsciously, emotions and feelings all throughout our life from a young age. And that's all an energy. That's all a frequency that gets stored in our body. It becomes our belief systems. It is a part of the process of what our thoughts are created from. And so oftentimes we're trying to create a new life and get unstuck and go towards our desires, but we don't ever get there. And it's because this unconscious is running the show. And so breath work helps to remove the mind, remove that, the logic behind it, and allow our bodies to do the talking. And so when that happens, when our mind's out of the way, these emotions can arise in a very safe space. And I'll go into that more in the master class about having a safe space to process emotions and what that looks like. But we leave a session feeling lighter, feeling clearer, because it's like we removed the obstacle for a short time and could have some mental clarity. We could process, like finish a loop of stress or trauma that at some point in our life we had suppressed, and just, like I said, that stuck energy is just there in our body. So that's the mental and physical aspects, one of. And then there is a spiritual aspect of it as well. And I don't always share this one. I always kind of read the room, because anyone can benefit from breath work. Like I just said, like the physical part, like that covers everyone. Mental and emotional, well, gosh, these days, that's a large portion of our population as well who suffer with, the mental stuckness. And there's so many of us that are, especially in the last few years, right, that are just like not feeling themselves, taking on a lot of stresses. And then, but the spiritual aspect, sometimes that can kind of turn some people away. So I don't talk too much about that until I know the person and where they're at in their journey, and we can dive deeper into that. But it will just say that there is definitely an opportunity through breathwork sessions to connect with your intuition, connect with your higher self, connect with whatever it is is your higher power you believe in, because again, it's like a super highway from like your oxygen, your breath connecting into that consciously and continuously is like a super highway from your physical body to your higher self. So there's a lot of really cool things that I myself have experienced in that with doing practicing breathwork regularly, and that I have seen some of my clients move through as well.
Yeah. Well, that's one of those ones too, though. You have to do it. Once you do it once, then you'll understand that side of things. You can't really explain any of that.
Yeah, actually one of my clients, when she had her first breath session, she said, like, why don't more people do this? And she was like, people don't know what they're missing. And I was like, I know, that's just exactly it. Like, we can sit here and we can talk about it and I can explain it to you, but until you try it, you don't know. And each person's experience is different, and each experience a person has is different. So it's really interesting and neat to experience. There was something I wanted to say about the physical aspect of it, but I just have so much to say that now got mixed up with all that.
Yeah, so you've done physical, mental, spiritual,
and emotional. Like emotional and mental kind of go together. Okay. Because I used to be a massage therapist, and so I realized how a lot of people back then, even though I didn't understand what was happening, but held emotions in their body. I would touch a certain spot, like massage a certain area of someone's body, and they would just like word vomit all over me, right? Like start sharing an experience or a memory, or some people actually, I think, did cry. And I was like, this is really interesting. But now that I know what I know, it's like, oh, yes, we store emotions in our body. And when it is touched, or when there's like a safe space, or when, we just feel comfortable to allow that to come through, it comes through. And that emotion gets felt. And if, like I said, if it isn't a safe space, and the emotion can actually, and that feeling can actually follow through, it's like you've healed that aspect, right? There might be more coming back to it, but you actually got to finish feeling that time in your life, or that feeling that you suppressed or repressed, even though you might not even be aware you did. And now it leaves your body. So if you think about like energy and frequencies, a lot of our thoughts and beliefs, dis-ease, our environment is pretty low frequency, right? Unless we're really conscious and have been doing the work around that. And so when we go into a breath session and we're doing continuous connected breath, we are connecting into a higher frequency. And then we bring those two frequencies together to match up. And so you're moving from kind of an unhealthy frequency where your body knows what to do and what to let go when you're ready. So I always tell people, you're never going to experience too much or more than you can handle, because I believe that like our body has this larger awareness and our higher self working together with you in the session to be like, this is what she can handle right now. This is what it's going to release. And then it's like a layering process, right, with each session. But anyways, it's like tapping into a new frequency with each breath session, because you've released thoughts, feelings, beliefs, whatever, have new awareness about your beliefs, healed certain aspects of yourself, and you come out feeling lighter, clearer, sometimes also a lot more emotional. I've had sessions myself where after like 2, 3, 4 days after, I'm emotional, or I can feel things in my body. And that's because things are moving. Something's been released, and now there's a new flood of energy and blood, and like it's happening on a cellular level, right? So a big flush coming through, essentially, is kind of how I picture it. And so I'm always just very gentle with myself, and I just witness what is coming through and not judging it, and just allowing myself to take it easy and have grace with myself, because there are things that come through. So I just want to be clear on, you can feel really awesome and light, but it can also like kind of rip Band-Aids off of old things that you've been covering up. But it is part of the healing process.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. And I mean, and that's another reason why a facilitator is there too, right? To help out with some of that and talk about it afterwards and go through certain things. But that's awesome. Well, next question. What does a breath session look like?
Okay, so a breath session looks like the first one always takes a little bit longer. So I was first initially trained to do breath sessions in person, but with the nature of the world right now and the way everything is, a lot of breathwork has been brought online. And so I started doing it online, and it works the same way. It's just I can't physically touch a person's body, but I can intuitively hold that space, and I'm watching on a camera and I'm totally there with them and aware of everything that's going on. But so essentially a breath session, our first one will be at least 2 hours long because I have to explain a lot of things in depth, like the technique, what we're doing, why we're doing it. The better understanding that the breather has, the safer they feel to allow themselves to go into the breath session. So I definitely make sure I spend lots of time like communicating that with them and making sure that they understand. And then an actual breath session is about 45 to 50 minutes. And we use music, we use affirmations. In person, if I was doing an in-person session on you, I would use physical touch as well. I use a body mapping where I touch certain parts of your body that have been shown to hold certain types of emotions. And it doesn't mean every single one, but it just is like helpful in having that touch along with positive affirmations and the music playing of helping your body feel safe to release. So to feel, release emotion. Yeah, I'd say just those two things probably. And then I guide you out of your breath session. And so you're doing a specific conscious connected breath that I'm guiding you through and cueing you and reminding you on. And like I said, holding that safe space and affirming that it is safe for you to feel. And then we come out of that session and we chat about it a little bit. Some people like to chat lots about it. Some people don't like to chat really much about it because they're still just kind of processing or don't have much to say. And then we pretty much wrap the session up. Like once the interesting thing, and I've done quite a few like group things where I've met other people in breath sessions where I've been taking part of. And they're like, I'm just here to get high because you do literally get high on your breath. Like think about how oxygenated that you are. And so we do make sure, especially if you're in person and you're going to be driving away from me, but even when we are doing it online, we just make sure that you're feeling grounded and like back here on earth so that you're not going out driving high. And I've experienced that, like when I've left one-on-one sessions I've had with my trainers. It is weird. You're like, okay, I need to take some time a little bit here to make sure that I feel good before I drive because it's like you are on a whole new level.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, I've experienced it myself too, right, with you, and 100% I can attest to that. It's coming out of it. I was in real dazes a few times, right? So it's no, it's awesome. Okay, well, we're gonna take a moment to thank our sponsor of this show, the Revive Couple Safe and Wild 6-week program. Let's hear what people are saying about it.
My husband and I have been struggling for about 10 years now since we met to have a good relationship, especially once we left the honeymoon phase where things weren't easy anymore. Communicating and letting go of resentments and intimacy were a few of our main issues that pulled us towards Safe and Wild. We loved how Mike and Laura flowed so well together when explaining everything, and that they laughed and joked along the way, making it fun to go through the course and learn new ways of taking on our marriage. We now communicate way better, which allows us to have more fun and spend less time being mad at each other. Safe and Wild gave us better tools to have a successful marriage and to be able to show our kids how to have one as well.
All right. So why do you love breathwork so much?
Okay, well, clearly I already rambled on a whole bunch about why I love breathwork, but I would love to share just my very first session of breathwork and then, how it evolved after that. I was always like aware of breath work. It was showing up in our community and I was like, I need to try that. And so when I finally got to go to my first session, it was about 2 years ago. I have done a lot of personal development, right? Like ever since 2012, when our relationship was crumbling, that kind of forced me down this path of looking inwards and dealing with all my own stuff. And I uncovered a lot. I had a lot of awareness. But I was still like, why do I have such physical pains? And, why do I still feel stuck in certain things? And I don't believe that we're never growing and evolving. It's kind of once you're on that path, it's like, it's going to follow you for life. But I did definitely feel stuck. And so when I went to a breath session and experienced it, I was a little weirded out because it was a group session and they play like tribal music and stuff. And I was like, I've noticed this in my clients as well, that everyone's a little resistant to the first session, which is why I always recommend doing more than one. And I think you probably felt that way a little bit too. Well, maybe not because it was me.
No, well, I equate that to a lot of the stuff, right? Like even like everything we've done, right? Like even for myself, I always think of ayahuasca when I say that. Like,
oh yeah,
that retreat, right? There's fucking Digimadoo or Digimadoo and like all these crazy music and just all this crazy stuff happening, right? So
and we were kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
Out in the middle of nowhere in some
in a different
place.
country.
Yeah. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of movies that go that way. But yeah, so 100%, you have to have an open mind.
Yeah. But the experience that I will never forget. And so my facilitators and my trainers are a husband and wife. And so when they came around to me and they said some affirmations and placed their hands on me in their certain spots, I just burst into tears and I was like, holy fuck. So you're still very aware of where you are and what you're doing, but there's just this elevation of awareness and feelings. And for me to just put it simply, they were my mom and my dad. They represented my mom and my dad. And so my parents divorced when I was 3. And I've done a lot of inner child work. I've done a lot of stuff around that. But to have that experience of both of them working on me at the same time and expressing words to me, it was almost like that was what my inner child was longing to hear. Right. And so that is just my experience. I don't tell that to be oh, if your parents divorced when you were young, this is what you'll experience. I don't think I could reiterate enough that, again, every person's experience is different and each experience is different for a person. But that for me was holy fuck, this is real and I need to do more of this. And that was my very first session. I was the last person to leave the group and I was like, how can I learn to do this? And probably because I was already a massage therapist in my past. And, I love yin yoga and the idea that issues are stored in our tissues and our connective tissue just holds so much emotion. So this just fit perfectly into it for me. And I was like, I'm made to do this. I need to first experience this. But I already knew after my first session that I was like, I need to help, or not help, but be trained in this so that I can also support other people. And this is one of the things I think I was going to say earlier is that I went to a group session last month and just listening to everybody talk, it was kind of the common theme for them and their experiences that they've been through lots of personal development or they've been through lots of therapy, talk therapy. And one breath session for them is 10 talk therapy sessions in one. And I was when someone said that, I was like, oh, I agree 100% for my experience. It was personal development on steroids or personal awareness and self-awareness on steroids. So that was my hook. And ever since then, I've had, individual sessions, group sessions. I've trained. I even did some water stuff, which is not what I do, but when we lived out in Kamloops a few years ago with a lady who did breathwork, incorporated breathwork with some other energy stuff, which was really cool. And I went through like some rebirthing processes and stuff. But even just in my breathwork sessions, to like put it in a nutshell, I mean, I've had sessions where I'm like, I just feel relaxed and like at ease when I leave, to like, I've rebirthed my first son because I had some trauma around that birth process and it came up. And so in a session, I like totally rebirthed him. Again, very conscious that I was not rebirthing him in real life, but the emotions and the feelings that I was going through. So that was really neat. And then I've like connected with like ancestors and just like my higher self for sure. And then most recently, so being pregnant, I know some facilitators will say don't do breath work when you're pregnant. I would say, and what I'm kind of taking from my trainers is don't do, like maybe don't start breath work if you've never done it before, but because I've continuously been doing breath work. And actually, I was just thinking, I got pregnant right after I went on a breathwork retreat. So maybe that was like a huge release of breath.
What's in the air?
Yeah. And then I think it was like 3-4 weeks after that we were pregnant. Got pregnant. We don't have to, to fill you in on those.
Tell them the whole story.
We don't even. I'm like, well, maybe that's a story for another day, but we don't even know the story. So anyways, you can do breath work when you're pregnant, but it's just a lot less of an intense experience. And I've experienced that myself. Since I've been doing breath work pregnant, I'm like practicing breath work myself. It's not near as intensive experiences as I've been having before I was pregnant. And it makes sense because, I mean, I don't want to be doing like deep trauma work or like releasing when I'm pregnant. Like I want to continue to release things, but I feel like I did a lot of that before. But anyways, then I learned that even when you are pregnant, it's not as intense. And I think it has to do with like your diaphragm, and you can't take the expansive breaths that you would if you weren't, and things like that. So, but I have still been practicing breath work, like facilitated breath sessions while being pregnant. And my most recent ones have been like really connecting with this baby and visualizing, feeling into, and like birthing this baby. And my last one was really cool because I like held the baby in my hands and like we were looking in each other's eyes, and like you and Lennox were there, and it was just like my birth plan, but I could actually like feel it as a reality, which is huge for manifesting and stuff like that. So it was just really cool to be able to like connect to that and like truly feel it in my body, and like actually like looking the baby in the eyes was like a cool experience. So that's just like a few of mine in a nutshell that even just come to mind right now. There's a lot more, but
no, that's awesome.
I'll
That's
save you the details.
no, well, they're all special, right? And everything's different, and everyone is different. Like you said, it can be extremely relaxing all the way to solving the world's problems. All
yeah,
like
and
different sessions.
Exactly, and that's where like I always say to people, you always get what you need, right? Because I've worked with some people too where they're like, that wasn't like very intense, and I'm like, it wasn't meant to be today. Like,
Yeah.
And we're releasing, like even when we're resistant or getting frustrated, we're still feeling emotions, and that's the exact emotion that you're meant to be feeling. So the fact you're frustrated that you didn't have an intense session, that's saying something all in itself.
You sound like a guru. You're here for what's it's what's right.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's true. So yeah, I could just talk about it forever and ever and ever, but that's just kind of like my experience in a nutshell as to why I love breathwork. And everyone's going to find breathwork in their own way, but essentially at the end of the day, and why I tie this into the work that I'm doing now, is because we can only do so much mindset work and conscious awareness work and talking and coaching and setting goals because there's going to be these things that are unconscious that are holding us back from, whether that's like really truly believing that we're worthy of having the love of our partner and allowing them into our hearts, right? For holding on to all of this like stress and trauma from our childhood and believing we're not worthy of being loved. Clearly that's showing up in our relationships, right? And how we show up as mothers, and how we hold ourselves back from going for our desires and creating the life we want and just being happy and like being happy with life. And so this is why I'm incorporating it into my coaching so much more, because we can focus on moving forward, focusing on our desires and moving towards those. But then it's like we're unpacking this bag that you're dragging behind at the same time, but not logically or consciously. We're allowing our body to do the work. So like we get to focus on what you want and where you're going. And then we throw in breathwork sessions that take care of the limiting stuff that's holding us back. And I would also add to that I've worked with women who, and myself too, we don't know what we want because we're so stuck in a loop of this is the way things are and have always been. So either I've given up on like any imagination, or not imagination, but like fantasies that I've kind of had of my life, or I've just never even allowed myself to play in that field because it's never been a possibility for me, right?
I just picture the Notebook. What do you want? I don't know.
Well, exactly. And so I think breath work is just such a powerful tool on even unleashing that. And then obviously allowing ourselves to release whatever is holding us back. And then with my coaching and really focusing in on desires and changing our thoughts and our beliefs, it just works like so powerfully together. I wish that I could have did this like 10 years ago, but obviously I am where I am because I had to experience and learn what I had to do on my journey. So
yeah, no, exactly. I guess with that being said, can anyone do breath work with you?
Essentially. So I'm only working with women right now. If like I've done breath work on my brother, on you, but most of all my clients have been women because that's just what I focus on, right?
Right.
So in person, I'm open to doing breath work sessions on men and women, but I'm not doing those right now because of season of life that we're in. But I am doing breath work online in a few different ways with my group but I'm only working with ladies. So essentially what I'm saying is I'm only working with ladies. But if you're asking about like contraindications and if someone can't do breath work.
Well, that, and I mean, I guess be open to that eventually, like some co-ed classes and stuff. I know people like that container and women feel safe, and once masculine energy gets in there, it gets kind of like,
Exactly. Yeah, that's a huge reason too. Because so I only work one-on-one with women. We work 2-on-2 with couples, right? Like, but I only work personally one-on-one with women. I don't work with men. So the breath work and the coaching sessions I do is just women. And then I have a container of women, a small group of women. It's called Unwind. And we do a 4-week breath session weekly. Did I say a 4-week breath session? For a series of 4 sessions weekly. And again, that's only women for exactly the reasons you're saying. It's like, this is a feminine container where it's safe to release emotions, feel emotions, not feel that masculine energy or, and I'm always a huge believer that the people who come together in a group, like a specific group, are exactly who's meant to be there, because then we, we may trigger people in certain ways, but it's like what we're meant to see. We may see ourselves in each other and our what's the word I'm looking for? Like we see empowered and disempowered states of ourselves in someone else, right? They trigger that for us, is what I'm trying to say. So only women. But essentially anyone typically can do breath work. I did just say, like, if you're pregnant and you've never done it before, it would be a discussion we would have for sure. But also, I mean, people with epilepsy, if they don't know their triggers, then I would suggest staying away from doing breath work. and asthma, we do have to just be more cautious of the inhale and the exhale. So you can still do it. And I guess it depends upon the severity. So again, conversation need to be had. And people with like heart problems or elevated blood pressure, high blood pressure, it can be an issue as well, but it can also be very healing. So essentially, as long as you're cleared by your doctor for like regular exercise, then it would be safe to do breath work. And I think that's about like the only like medical kind of contraindications, or for those of you who don't know that, reasons you can't or shouldn't do breath work. But yeah, so that's.
Oh, it sounds good. And if there is men, I guess, out there that want to do it, you're more like you'd be open to like one-on-one sessions, I guess, with them, or?
Yeah, I would definitely be open to doing one-on-one sessions with men.
Like even online kind of thing, or what?
Yeah, probably online. There would be no coaching involved. I'm not really offering one-on-one sessions right now, but honestly, if you're a man who's listening to this and is like, I need you, reach out to me and we'll work something out, or I can refer you to somebody that I know as well. And when you said co-ed, this is something that we will be bringing in the future, is probably like once the baby's here, breathwork for couples. So we'll work out some form of arrangement, whether we throw coaching as a package or just offer, I don't know what that looks like yet, hence why it's not for a few months out, but we'll definitely offer breathwork sessions for couples because there can be some really powerful healing that happens between you and within you that brings you into a deeper connection as well.
Yeah, no, that makes sense for sure.
Right?
No, that's awesome. Well, that was very informative. There's a lot.
I got more. No, just make sure that you check out the masterclass at Revived. We'll put it in the show notes.
It'll be on your Linktree or on Linktree on Instagram, all the fun stuff. But there's always the link on Instagram, and that's kind of where we keep it updated and keep all the latest and greatest.
Yeah,
everything
exactly. There. Instagram, same with Facebook, but you can also check out therevivedcouple.com and we'll have everything up to date there.
And the show notes have everything, links, all that fun stuff, right?
Notes, yeah.
Okay, well, that was going to be my last question, but I think kind of nailed it with all that.
Okay, sweet. I feel like I want to like go back and re-talk about it all because it's just, there's so much to say, but that's why you got to come join the masterclass. I'll go deeper into it, and I'll go deeper into like more too of why. I mean, clearly if you don't know why this would benefit you already, I'll be going deeper into like personally how it will benefit you, but then also how it will benefit your relationship as well.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's great. Like I say, very informative, and thank you for that. And I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you guys. I love you guys.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. Check out our offerings on social media at The Revived Couple and online at therevivedcouple.com. Have a request for a show topic? We love that. Send us an email at michael@larocquelife.com or DM at The Revived Couple.
And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.